Let's talk about the console wars. Let's do that. Not the book by Blake J. Harris, which you should read. Do your homework. I know that doesn't sound very sexy, but it's fun. I have been watching videos by some creator friends of mine, people like Lamar Wilson, shout out to him. And it got my brain thinking, and I wanted to dive in and talk about the console wars, because it's 2020 and it's hyping up in a big way. Obviously, 2 consoles are coming this holiday season. Whether or not anybody has any money to buy them, hello? Regardless, it got me thinking, and I wanted to give my take on it, because I don't think I've ever really gone on record about this type of thing. I always kind of have done, I've put out videos on my channel, I've put out videos on Game Ranks, thinking that my work and my actions, my phrases will kind of show for itself where I feel, which it is pretty much, I'm in the middle. I'm neutral. I don't care. Obviously, if you've been watching me, you probably know that, but there's a lot, because I feel like, this is going to sound crazy, but I feel like we've kind of already won the console war, if there was one. I know that sounds really cheesy and corny, so let me explain. First of all, the divides aren't as big as they were in the old days, where console wars were part of a marketing strategy. It used to feel like, buy ours, don't buy theirs. Graphics, look at our graphics. Now, yes, while that still exists, especially the graphics talk, it does feel like these companies all have way more to back their shit up. To me, and what I've had a lot of fun as a consumer just observing, is that it feels like all of these companies are trying more. They're almost stumbling over themselves to offer things up, to try things for us, the consumers. Now, the individual game publishers, that's a whole different story. There is a sticking point with this whole console war thing. I'll get to it in a little bit. It has to do with the publishers. But in terms of the hardware makers, I truly believe that gaming is bigger than... What are you doing? I truly feel like gaming is bigger than ever. Statistically, it is. The amount of different communities, esports, which I have no idea what it even is, to real-time strategy players, to first-person shooter casual players, to people who only play indie games, to people who play no indie games. There's so much more out there. This cat, what? In or out? Do you want to be in or do you want to be out? Come on. I feel like with that comes choice of hardware, of platform, and each one offers different stuff. And I think now more than ever, there's enough freedom of choice. The freedom of choice is a thing, and I think it's really valuable. And I think when people get into just the petty squabbling about consoles and which hunk of plastic they like, you lose sight of the good things that we are getting. Because let me address the negativity for a second, because I face it a lot, and I see a lot of people give it to other people online. People make me feel bad for the fact that I like both PlayStation and Xbox. I go to them for different reasons. Sometimes I will buy one before the other for specific reasons, maybe a game I want, but ultimately I have always been trying to own both, or whatever 2 consoles it was at the time, or 3 consoles, whatever. I'll get to that in a sec, because that's of course a money thing. But that's where I think we kind of lose the thread here, is when it comes to making people feel bad. I've seen so many PlayStation players dunk on Xbox players because Xbox games have no games, and I've seen Xbox players dunk on PlayStation players for whatever. I've also seen PC players, just they're a whole different beast. I am one of those too. So I get rooting for a thing. Look, if you spend anywhere from $200 to $300 to $400 to $500 to $1,000 on a machine, or not even just a gaming device, anything out there, a phone, anything you invest your kind of time into an ecosystem, you're gonna root for that thing. You're gonna want that thing to succeed and do well. Yes. But when it comes to putting down others in your hobby, I think that's where then you are lost. To quote Obi-Wan, I have met many players that are just into PlayStation. I've met many players that are just into Xbox, and I think you can be a fan of a specific thing. You want that thing to succeed. You want it to have the best games. You want it to have the best things. You want it to have the most units or whatever. But when that starts making you stupid, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase. I'm not talking down to anyone here. Most of you guys who watch me are very reasonable. I will say, though, comparing them can be fun. We do it on Game Ranks all the time, to hold up a Nintendo Switch to the Wii U, or, the PlayStation versus the Xbox, or an Xbox One X versus a PC. We've done it all, and it's fun. But if you'll notice something, there's never any mean-spiritedness towards it. We don't aim to put anything down or anyone that bought another thing down, because that ain't right. I think there's value to all of these things depending on where you want to go. Nintendo, I have been excited about the Switch for years because they're thinking outside the box on how you play a game, with it being portable and it being at home. Xbox, of course, is doing more platform building on Xbox Game Pass, which I do think is pretty incredible, although I'm starting to have the Netflix problem where it's just there's too many things and then you just get stuck spending all day deciding what to play. But all that platform building is just very consumer friendly regardless, even though you're going more into the digital realm, not the physical realm. That's a whole other video. But at the very least, you do have that. And if you do play on PC, there are some benefits for you to bounce back and forth. PlayStation and Sony, you might go primarily for the, couple of games, those big exclusives that you really love. While yes, there is a whole other argument, a whole other conversation, a whole other video that those shouldn't be exclusive. They should be everywhere in a perfect world. You go to one or the other, or you be like me and buy both. Ever since I was a kid, I would save up and put myself in massive debt because I just loved playing games so much. Don't do that. I'm not a finance YouTuber. I love a lot of them, but I don't put yourself in debt for more consoles. It's not a good idea. But that's what I'm trying to say here is like with these companies doing these things, building these platforms, spending a ridiculous amount of money towards high-end exclusives like Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, stuff like that. All of these places making it more welcome for indie games and the fact that B-tier games, those B-level budget games are coming back. All of that is a good thing. Not to mention the fact that there's all this other stuff that I don't even know about, like esports and Fortnite growing on these platforms and cross-play and everything kind of working together, a lot of cross-account stuff. It's huge. Not to mention now in 2020, more games are multi-platform than ever before. There's really only like a select few couple of games that are stuck on one platform. Generally, you have a lot more options and a lot more to play wherever you go. Then, of course, there is also the PC thing, which PC gaming has been growing more than ever. So I do see with some people squabbling all day about frame rates and what the Xbox or the PlayStation in the next generation can push, and are they disappointed? And I'm trying to say this without talking down, but like if that's something that you're concerned about, I'm totally with you. I do think that if you're spending money on like a next gen console thing, you really want it to blow the doors down. You want it to perform really well. But if you find yourself counting pixels or counting frames, do your research, save up a little, buy a PC, because honestly, you can get something pretty good and then you can be miserable with the rest of us Windows users. If you're like me and you do realize that like you were never going to be satisfied, consider getting a PC. Still, I do think all of these things at work, all of these options, all of these choices, and also the fact that it's less relegated now more than ever that, oh, well, I bought an Xbox because all my friends are playing on Xbox. Like that's even becoming less of a thing. So we're more open now than ever. So that's it. Like I just see people arguing about this stuff and I'm just like, I'm so tired. I think I said that in another video, like the last video I put out, but for real. So the fact that I think like the console war, like that, the blood in the streets, that stuff is over from the old days, from the 90s and the 2000s. I think it's very different now, but there's that sticking point I mentioned, and it's the little things that publishers do, because on the one hand, they have in many ways welcomed cross-play, cross-account stuff, working with all these companies, be it Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, stuff like that. But then we get stuff like the other day with Spider-Man in the Avengers. I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but Avengers, the game, that game that I'm kind of skeptical about, that Games as a Service Avengers game, Spider-Man is going to be a post-launch downloadable character with his own new content and a whole update and stuff, but that's going to be exclusive to PlayStation. So look, I have a high tolerance for this type of thing. I am never the type of person to rage out about this stuff unless it's really egregious. If it was like the early days of Battlefront, I think this is not cool. And I think this does actually kind of hurt us a little bit because, like I said, these companies are so willing to try these things, these platform-centric, forward-thinking things. And then to do something so regressive as keeping Spider-Man just to one platform, because I get certain things. This is a business move, to get more people on PS4. That's why they're doing it. A lot of people have brought up the Soul Calibur argument. Hey, remember the old Soul Calibur games? If you wanted to play as Link, you had to buy the GameCube version. If you wanted to play as Heihachi, you had to play the PS2 version. Heihachi was actually really awesome in that game. Where was I? It's different, man. It's Spider-Man, and it's Spider-Man, especially that they pointed out that they're gonna go with like Ditko, like Romita costume. it takes things a step back, especially considering, like I said earlier, there are more games that are multi-platform than ever before. So that's like a big deal. Spider-Man isn't a side character. Honestly, I'm sorry. You know who should have gotten the short end of the stick and been a console exclusive? Hawkeye. I'm sorry, Hawkeye. I'm sorry, Clint, but move over. Where was I with this? Yeah, stuff like that I don't like, but overall, I think we're in a better place. And again, that is not, to mention the fact that there are these publisher things. Of course, the publishers push it in greedy directions sometimes. Some people are completely disillusioned with gaming as a whole in 2020. I'm not there yet, and that's why I'm here to talk about this stuff. Like, I'm trying to, running out of words. Basically, what I'm trying to say, despite a pandemic and all those terrible things going on, at least in terms of holiday video game launch consoles and moving forward, maybe not even the launch lineups, because I don't know, but just going forward, I think we're better off than we were when it was down to PS4 and Xbox One, or even Xbox 360 and PS3. But that's just me. It's just a call for sanity, a call for reasonableness about the stuff. We're all adults at this point, I think, a lot of us. So let's talk in the comments. I want to know what you think overall about the console wars. Are you done fighting? Put down your sword, soldier. No, but seriously, I'd love to know what you think. Like, do you just stick with one console? Obviously, that's a very big decision to make. Obviously, there are still going to be concessions to make, some downsides to each. But do you think that the positives still outweigh everything? I would like to think if you're spending $400, $500. But whatever. Let's talk about the console wars. Let's talk about the Spider-Man thing. The big sticking point here. Let's talk about all this down in the comments. Thank you guys for coming around, though. I love when you guys come over here. I love just kind of rambling. I appreciate it. If you like what I'm trying to do over here, clicking the like button to support me does actually help. I appreciate that. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.